Hey everybody, welcome to week 5 of our Identity Bible study. I am so excited to dig into this week's topic with you. We are going to be digging into love languages. And this may be a topic that you're familiar with, but we're going to take a little bit of a different spin on the concept of love languages this week as we dig into how God has designed us to love and edify and minister to other people. So this is a really important concept in Scripture. If we look at passages like John 13, verses 34 and 35, Jesus addresses his disciples and he says to them, "A new command I give to you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another." And pay attention to this. "By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples, if you love one another." Also, let's check out 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 11. This is Paul the Apostle talking to the Thessalonian church. He says, "Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up." So learning to love other people well and biblically is really important. We talk about love as a concept a lot, but I think it's important to dig into some practical ways to love and edify one another, because as Jesus states in the passage in John 13, this is the mark of an authentic faith. The way that we love one another, the way that we pour out the love of God to build up his church, to build up other people, it gives validity to him at work in our lives. So it's very important for us to figure out how we can practically love the people around us, not just in an emotional sense, but in an active, action-based sense. So this week's topic is derived from a book that has become a phenomenon called The 5 Love Languages. I brought the book here with me today. It was written by Gary Chapman many years ago, and he talks about how not everyone really appreciates the same types of love in action, that some of us prefer or feel more appreciated by certain demonstrations of love over others. And so the 5 love languages really is about learning what is my preferred way of feeling appreciated, feeling valued, of believing that I am loved by another person, and then turning that outward and really paying attention to how might this person need to receive love? How might this person, even though I prefer to receive it in this way, maybe they prefer it in a different way. Or maybe somebody has been trying to love me, but because that's not the particular way that I value being appreciated or being loved, I'm not receiving it. And so I feel frustrated in my relationships. Now, this book was really designed to cultivate healthy marriages. But today we're going to look at how beyond the marriage relationship, in our relationships with our kids, with our coworkers, with teams that we're on, in the church, we can utilize the principles of this book and really activate them to be more effective ministers, to really live out that command to love one another. So that is what we're looking at today. We're going to identify what the love languages are, and then we're going to look at some ways, some practical ways to apply those in a ministry setting. So let's dig right into our very first love language, which is words of affirmation. Now, words of affirmation are things like compliments, verbal appreciation. You can express words of affirmation by using kind words, by using humble words, by being careful with the way that you talk to somebody, giving them praise, saying "I love you," verbally expressing care or concern. Now, something to note about people whose love language is words of affirmation is that criticism or complaints can really impact and deteriorate and deflate this person. Now, in a ministry setting, there are so many opportunities for utilizing words of affirmation. You can celebrate people's wins. You can affirm or applaud the great character that you see in them. You can highlight certain attitudes or behaviors or actions that they took that are Christ honoring, that you want to really celebrate that you saw in them. You can do this by having a one-on-one conversation with that person, like maybe pulling them aside and being like, hey, you know, the way I saw you with those kids today in kids' church, I just wanted to tell you that was really meaningful for me as a parent. I thought that you were doing such a great job being intentional and loving on my child. I appreciate what you do every week. Another way that you can highlight someone through words of affirmation is in a small group or in the company of people that mean a lot to them. For example, you might highlight your spouse, really praise your spouse in front of your friend group. Maybe you have a small group. You can take the opportunity to be encouraging or celebrate the things that they did well. Like, hey, I just want to brag on my man this week. He was so awesome. He really helped me around the house, and that made such an impact in how my week went. I'm so thankful for him. It makes them feel good in front of people that they value. So that's really important. Oftentimes people don't love to be publicly celebrated. In fact, statistically, half of people get really embarrassed if it's in front of a large crowd of people. They don't want to be necessarily the center of attention. They just want to hear that what they are doing and who they are and their presence and their contribution is valuable to you. So it doesn't have to be very public to be very meaningful. It could be private. It could be in the form of a card. But however you're choosing to demonstrate words of affirmation to someone, make sure it is authentic. Don't just say empty words in an attempt to fill up their cup, because they will be able to sense whether there's genuineness there. So make sure if you don't have something nice to say, if you don't have a real compliment, maybe just reserve that for a time when you do. Try to take notes about people in your life and remember things that they're doing that are meaningful, that you did really think were great. And then once you've compiled those things or noticed those things, then actively take them to that person, either privately, in a card, or in a small group of people, in front of people that mean something to them, in front of the team that they serve, for example, and give them those words of affirmation. That will really, really bless them. Our next love language is physical touch. Most often when we think of physical touch as a love language, we might think of sexual touch within the confines of a marriage. But even in that marital relationship, physical touch is so much more than that. It is non-sexual touch, like holding hands or back rubs, snuggling, just physical nearness. This is really important to those who prioritize that love language. In a ministry setting, this is going to look really different because we do have to be careful to maintain appropriate boundaries with people. But in the right time and in the right setting, a really great handshake or a pat on the back, a high five or hug, those can be very meaningful, and they are needs for people who value that physical touch love language. It makes them feel valued. It makes them feel appreciated. It fills them up. We can follow some guidelines to protect ourselves and to protect other people, but also to make sure that we're not neglecting those who do need this in their lives to feel loved and appreciated. There actually are certain groups that really tend to want and need that physical touch more than others. Kids, for example, love physical touch. They're going to so appreciate if you give them a little side hug. That's always an appropriate way to hug someone in a ministry setting or in a team setting. You can come from the side and just give them a little arm squeeze and let them know that you care so much about them in that way. If you have worked with elderly people, I know I spent some time working in assisted living during my college years, and that time where I would approach them and just hold their hands while they were talking to me, that was so valuable for them. They really, really value that nearness, that closeness. So kids and elderly people tend to be really receptive to that physical touch in a church setting, in a team setting, in a ministry setting. We're gonna have to be aware that there are people who are not going to be receptive to physical touch. And so to be cautious and careful about how we approach people, we want to make sure that we invite people to that, or that we ask permission to do that. For example, you could say something like, I grew up in a family of huggers and I'd love to be able to give you a hug if you're comfortable with that. Or you could extend your arms and let them know that you're receptive to a hug and give them the option of moving away. If they're not comfortable with it, they're going to step away. Also, if you are experimentally just putting your hand on someone's shoulder to pray for them or patting them on the back, you're going to notice their body language. If they stiffen up or if they step away from you, then you'll know right away. That's not their love language. They're not comfortable with that. So don't continue to persist in trying to do that to make them be comfortable if they're demonstrating that they're needing some boundary space there. When my husband and I were going through our foster to adopt training, we learned that a very non-threatening way to stand in someone's presence, just to help them in a nonverbal way to feel safe around you, is to not stand face to face or too close to that person, but let there be an angle, about a 45-degree angle between where they're standing and where you're standing. Something about the subconscious fact that you are not able to reach them, to hurt them physically in any way, makes them feel safe. So again, that is a way to provide a non-threatening presence when you enter into conversation with somebody. If you see that they're stepping back and stepping to an angle, just know they may not feel very comfortable with physical contact. That may be a sensitivity for them. So that's just something to keep in mind and keep a lookout for, or to even implement when you're talking with people that are new, that you don't know. If you're greeting somebody, maybe you take that non-threatening stance when you're talking to them, just so they know, I'm not a threat. I'm here just to engage with you. I want to make sure that you feel comfortable. Our next love language is gifts. Gifts are not about the amount of money that you spend. It's all about the thought behind it. For the person who values this love language of gift giving, it's that the gift serves as a visual reminder of love. It's about the sentimentality. It is something concrete that they have to serve as a reminder of your care, your appreciation for them. If you want to implement loving someone well through gift giving, you want to make sure it's something personalized. Like, for example, if you're on a team and you want to give something to everybody, don't give everyone the same gift. Show that there's something personal, that you took time to know who that person is and what their preferences are, and make the gift tailored to what you know about that person. That is going to really resonate with somebody whose love language is gifts, because it expresses what you know about them, that you took time and effort to think about them when you were choosing it. And that for them equates that you value them and that you love them. Something that discourages those who value gifts is missed opportunities, like birthdays or anniversaries, or if it's just a standardized gift that everyone is getting. For them, it's the thought that counts. You can even randomly send someone something in the mail. Some ideas for gifts might be some kind of memento or something nature made. It doesn't have to necessarily be something you buy. It might be something that you picked. Some of the sweetest gifts I've gotten from my daughter are things she's found from outside that she's made into a craft for me, for example. You can give symbolic gifts, something that I saw this and it reminded me of that time that we experienced this together, or this meaningful event in your life, or just reminded me of you. You can also give someone a tribute. You could honor them through a charity that they value or a cause that they value. That might be a great way to love someone who for them gift giving is important. You know, you don't always have to have a specific reason either. You can also just randomly bless somebody to show their appreciation. I know at a certain point in my work career, I worked remotely for a marketing organization. And I loved this organization so much because although we didn't get a lot of face time, they would periodically just send me a random gift. And it was always really fun. It showed that they appreciated me, that they were thinking about me, that they were celebrating me, that I was part of the team. And it really made me work harder because I felt like they were thinking about me. So never underestimate the power of sending someone a little gift in the mail, just saying, I was just thinking about you. I love that you're a part of this family. I love that you're part of this team. I love that I get to serve with you, or that you're a part of our church family. So just some ideas for you to love those whose love language is gifts. Our next love language is acts of service. For someone whose love language is acts of service, it is all about easing the burden of someone or helping with a responsibility. This makes them feel loved and appreciated. You might, for example, help them clean out a car. You might pack a lunch. help complete household chores, or help finish a project. Some things that tend to discourage our friends who need acts of service are broken commitments, laziness, lack of dependability. So definitely, if you say you're going to help someone do something and you know that their love language is acts of service, make sure that you do it. Make sure that you consider whether you have the time and energy and resources to do it before you commit to doing it. That can be really damaging to trust and to the relationship. It can create tension if you don't. So in a church setting, there are tons of opportunities to help with acts of service because there are always so many things that need to be done. So the important thing for you as a minister is that you need to just ask. One of the best ways to love on somebody whose love language is acts of service is just simply to ask them, hey, how can I help you today? Maybe I have a couple of hours this week. I'd love to be able to help. If there's anything that would ease your burden, what can I do for you this week? And in all probability, that person is going to decline the first time that you ask, because most people do. And so ask more than once. And when you ask the second time, get really specific. Hey, would it maybe help you if I answered some phone calls for you? Would it maybe help you if I organized this room? Would it help you if I stepped in to serve this weekend? These are some great ways to offer help to somebody. Now, if you are a very productive type, if you are, for instance, a beaver temperament, you may walk into any given situation and see that there are lots of things that need to get done. And acts of service might be your love language. Just keep in mind that if you want to help someone by expressing acts of service as a love language for that person, then you need to be really cautious that you're not doing what you think needs to be done, but you are letting them decide what you do and the way that you do it and the timeline in which you do it, so that it is actually making them feel less burdened and appreciated and loved. The worst thing we can do is just sort of step in and bulldoze or not ask permission to help someone, because what you see may not be the area that they feel like they could really use the help in that moment. It may be what you see, but maybe another action might be more high on their priority list and might ease the burden. So we always want to ask questions. When we get the yes to being able to help, we can ask, what specifically would you like me to do to help you? Let them determine how you help them. The second thing we want to ask is, how would you like it done? Some of us more creative types want to do things in a certain way, but in order to truly help and love the person, we need to make sure we're doing it the way they want it done, so that they don't feel stressed that they have to go back and do it again behind us, so that it's not really more of a burden than a blessing. And then you need to really get clear, when do you want this done? And so again, if we're demonstrating acts of service to our friends in a ministry setting as a ministry, then we really want to give them the driver's position, and we just want to come alongside and help them. Our fifth love language is quality time. Quality time is more than just proximity. It's more than just being in a room with someone. This is intentional, full, undivided attention to someone. And this can take a couple of different forms. Sometimes it's like one-on-one quality conversation where you're engaging in active listening and sympathy and empathy over fixing the problem. You're giving eye contact. You're not doing other things. You're removing other distractions to just give that person your full focus and engage in a conversation with them. It can also look like quality activities. Sometimes it's just asking somebody what they want to do and doing that thing with them because they value doing things. Men, for example, tend to want to do something together as a way of spending quality time more than sitting face to face and just having a long conversation. So you're going to have different types of quality time that different people prefer, and you kind of have to know that person in order to best love and appreciate them and meet their need. So something you definitely want to avoid with those who need quality time, you don't want to cancel dates or appointments that you have with that person. You don't want to look or seem distracted or try to multitask while you are engaging with them. You definitely want to be an active listener. Not listening to what they have to say is a big deflator for them. And then interruptions are very frustrating for people who need quality time. So again, as a ministry, quality time has many facets. There are many different examples of things that you can do to spend quality time or to give the gift of quality time to others. A great idea for spending quality time with people is just to pop in and visit them from time to time. For example, I love quality time. And so one of my favorite things at work is when my coworkers just come and stand in my doorway and visit with me. It makes me feel like they're thinking about me, they appreciate my presence in the office, and it just fills me up. One of the things I have to work on is when they come to spend that quality time with me, I have to make sure that I'm not distracted. I'm a really task-focused person. So oftentimes I don't tell them I'm in the middle of doing something right now. Can I just give a couple more minutes to this task, finish it so that I can give you my attention? That's something that people that value quality time really appreciate. They want your full focus. So if you can't give it to them right at the time when they're ready for it, just let them know, hey, I really value you and I want to give you my undivided attention. So would it be okay if I just complete what I'm doing and then I'm going to come and visit with you and let's sit down together? That can be such a great way to love on them and let them know you value their time and you value quality time with them. Another way that we can provide quality time is a little more indirect, actually. It's providing opportunities for other people to experience quality time. For example, you might provide childcare for a family so that the parents can go and have some quality time together for a date night. I always think about our children's ministry workers. They work really hard to intentionally and lovingly invest in our kids so that we can spend quality time with the Lord each week. I so value what they do because they're enabling me to spend quality time with my Savior. Another opportunity to spend quality time together is to work collaboratively on something. There is something about getting a friend together with you to go and serve in a particular ministry area. For example, there's a small group meeting at our church right now, and just about everyone in their small group is currently serving in our youth ministry. And I can tell it's a really great way for them to spend time together, for them to bond. As they're doing this act of service together, they're spending quality time together. They're getting to know each other, and it's filling them up. They're enjoying that time that they're getting to spend together, getting to know each other, getting to serve the Lord together. So they're doing an activity, they're working collaboratively on a project, on a ministry endeavor. And so that's an idea for you as well. Younger generations, millennials and younger, they really like to work collaboratively on projects, more so than the older generations. So they value input and group work. So include them in what you're doing. If you're doing a project, ask them to come along, ask them for their perspective, ask them to serve alongside you, or find a friend to serve with and make that your opportunity to spend quality time together. It will fill you up if that is your love language, and it certainly will fill them up if that's their love language. Remember, some people prefer to spend quality time with others in a more active type setting. So they want to go and do things together. So invite people to go to a concert or go to an event, go to a conference together. That's a great way to have a shared experience and spend quality time that in later years you can look back on and refer to, and you'll see that as a milestone in your friendship development and also in your ministry development as you develop together as Christians, as you have that experience that's uplifting, maybe in a Christian concert or in a Christian conference. You're going to look back on that and see it was meaningful in so many ways. But part of that is going to be that you built relationship during that experience together. So those are our 5 love languages. And probably you already have an idea what your particular love language is. The way that you choose to receive love and appreciation may be different than how you tend to give love and appreciation. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes it's not exactly the same. You may find that they are the same for you, that you're expecting people to give you as a form of love and appreciation what you've been giving. And maybe this is opening your eyes that they have been trying to show you affection, appreciation, applaud you, but you have not been receptive to that because that's not your love language. So that may create less tension in your current relationships and also help you to think, as I'm ministering, as I'm answering the call on my life, as I'm answering the command to love my brothers and sisters in Christ, How can I get to know who they are as individuals and love them in a way that best meets their need? But also, how can I capitalize on what my love language is to serve the Lord and to serve His church? So I hope you'll spend some time discussing that today. What are some ways that you think your love language might be an effective ministry within the church setting, or within a small group setting, or within your workplace or teams that you're on? How can you minister and edify other Christians through your love language? So enjoy talking about that. Next week, talking about conflict style, how you fight, and some biblical principles for how to handle conflict, because people are complicated and we all will have times in our lives when there is a disagreement. So we have to handle it in a way that honors the Lord and preserves the ministry, preserves what God has asked us to do, preserves our character, and promotes holiness and holy living. So that's what we're going to get into next week. I'm excited about that. I pray you have a great week. God bless you. We'll see you next time.